Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a genuinely fascinating and honestly kind of bizarre text about our modern tech anxieties. The source uses some wildly unconventional metaphors to ask some big, slightly absurd, but very real questions about our future. We're going to look at the massive tension between human authenticity and artificial generation, and we're doing it all through the lens of a metaphorical jungle.
So, let's just get right to this central, totally existential question from our source material. Is a robot coming for your livelihood, your resources, your metaphorical banana? I know, it sounds almost comical, right? But what the author is actually doing here is stripping away all that complicated tech jargon. They're boiling down all those complex, sophisticated anxieties we have about artificial intelligence into literally the most primal, basic fear imaginable. In this technological jungle we're all navigating, your banana is whatever is most valuable to you. That could be your paycheck, your creative outlet, your sense of purpose, or just your fundamental resources. The text is forcing us to confront this head-on. Are we seriously on the verge of being outcompeted in our very own habitat?
All right, moving right into Section 1, Inside the AI Bubble.
You know what's really interesting here? It's how the text actually defines the AI we're interacting with right now. It completely ditches those standard sci-fi tropes of super-intelligent, omniscient computer brains. Instead, the source material characterizes these programs as smart monkeys. Think about how that framing works for a second. It implies that these programs are just incredibly adept at mimicry. They observe what we do, learn the patterns, and replicate the actions, specifically writing and drawing. But by calling them smart monkeys, the text subtly points out a huge limitation. They're basically performing tricks based on our inputs, swinging from branch to branch in the digital canopy, mimicking human behavior without necessarily having any true underlying human comprehension.
And that brings up the core contradiction with these smart monkeys. Sure, they're highly capable of writing absolute reams of text. Yeah, they can draw complex images in an instant. But the text lands a really heavy punch with one crucial caveat. The output of these smart monkeys is often explicitly described as fraudulent. That is a heavy word choice. It doesn't just mean they make mistakes. It means the results possess this illusion of competence. It looks like a real essay. It looks like a real photograph. But underneath, the text argues it completely lacks the genuine substance, truth, or lived experience that a real human brings to the table. It's essentially a facade of creativity.
So the big takeaway is that we're currently living inside this massive bubble. You've got this colossal collision happening where the sky-high hype surrounding AI's limitless capabilities clashes violently with the frequently fraudulent reality of its actual day-to-day results. The text is practically begging us to look past all the shiny marketing and recognize this gap. We're being sold on the idea of an infallible digital genius, but what we're actually getting, according to the source, is a very fast, very confident, but ultimately fraudulent mimic. This bubble of expectation versus reality really sets the stage for the deeper anxieties we're about to explore.
Let's jump to Section 2, Taking Jobs in Water.
Our source highlights two totally distinct but parallel fears. On one hand, you've got the fear of AI taking your job. This is that abstract, economic fear we hear about literally every day, right? The fear of the pink slip, of obsolescence, of the smart monkey doing your paperwork way faster than you ever could. But on the other hand, the text introduces a highly physical, incredibly literal fear. The fear of AI taking everyone's water. This leap forces us to remember that the digital world has a massive physical footprint. These AI programs require colossal server farms, and those servers require astronomical amounts of resources, especially water, just to keep cool.
It's a stark contrast that shows us this threat really isn't one-dimensional. The economic threat is colliding head-on with an environmental drain. The text wants us to understand that the smart monkeys aren't just a threat to our individual economic stability, our paychecks and daily labor. They're simultaneously posing a massive, tangible drain on the planet's shared physical resources. It is a total double-edged sword. You aren't just worried about losing your place at the office anymore. The source text is pushing you to worry about the very resources required to sustain the technology that might replace you. It elevates the whole anxiety from a personal level to a global one.
Okay, Section 3, Real Artist versus Slot Bowl. Now we get to the ultimate matchup in the text. On one side, we have the authenticity of what the source calls the real artist monkey. This represents genuine, maybe a bit gritty, but real organic effort. It's the entity that creates with real intention. Going head-to-head against it is the AI slot bowl bot. Honestly, this is a wonderfully chaotic phrase from the text. Just think about what a slot bowl implies. A slot machine is random, it's a huge gamble, it's about mass-producing chances until something finally hits. And a bull, that implies a charging, aggressive, relentless force, usually associated with market hype. So the text is basically pitching the authentic, intentional creator against a relentless, casino-like machine that just churns out aggressive, randomized content.
Which brings us to the absolute core conflict of the whole piece: authenticity versus mass production. The source isn't just talking about who can draw a picture faster here. It's analyzing a full-on cultural battle. The real artist represents the human soul, our lived experiences, and the deliberate choices that make art, or honestly any work, meaningful. The slot bobot represents the automated, soulless mass production of the AI bubble. It's a machine that doesn't feel or intend. It just pulls the lever and floods the zone with content. The text is asking us to look at this showdown and decide which side of the equation do we value more and which side is ultimately going to dominate our culture and our economy.
Finally, Section 4. Who keeps the banana? All right, let's quickly recap the landscape we just walked through. We are currently navigating a bubble where smart monkeys are heavily relied upon, even though they frequently turn out fraudulent, illusory art and text. We've got this aggressive slot bull bot threatening our individual jobs with relentless mass production. Simultaneously, the physical infrastructure supporting this whole AI bubble is literally threatening to drain everyone's water, presenting a massive environmental toll. And amidst all of this chaos, the real artist, the authentic human element, is fighting a seriously fierce, uphill battle just to maintain meaning and authenticity in a world that's getting increasingly flooded by algorithms.
So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. Based on everything this source text has laid out, where exactly do you stand in this technological jungle? Are you fiercely protecting your authenticity, or are you just pulling the lever on the slot machine? Most importantly, as the economic and environmental pressures really start to mount in the age of the slot bot, who ultimately gets to keep your banana? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the bubble, and I'll catch you next time.